Back now to our big story, the weather. Let's go to Everglades City, where residents have been fighting the flooding all day.
Let's get to Local 10's Amy Viteri. She is live to show us just how bad it is. Amy.
Well, this flooding that we're seeing out here now is actually less than what we encountered a few hours ago when we got here. But just beyond where I'm standing, that water goes several inches deep. Some of that water has gotten into people's homes, and their concern is that even more water will get in as more rain is expected this evening. Few cars braved the flooded streets in Everglades City Tuesday afternoon after heavy rains left much of the small town underwater.
It was about 8 inches of water in my house. Instead of like dry ground, it was like getting in a swimming pool.
Scott Frizzell says he woke up to several inches of water on his floor and shared these pictures of the flooding inside his home. We met neighbors rushing out to the store in the brief moments the rain let up.
Look at it all. That's all I can tell you. There it is.
How'd you get over here?
This on my two-wheel machine.
For part of the day, Collier County Sheriff's deputies closed off access to Everglades City on County Road 29, but reopened it by late afternoon.
I was walking in water.
This weather for business is zero, and it's understandable, but this is good. This is good for the long run. We need this.
Local fishing guide Bob Miller says though the rain runoff is good for the Everglades, this may be too much of a good thing, and even more rain is expected later in the night.
But it's supposed to rain again tonight and tomorrow, so, you know, not looking good.
Now, as of right now, authorities are letting people back into this community despite those flooding concerns, but they say they are keeping an eye on the weather and that they could change that throughout the evening depending on how it looks in here. But right now we want to send it back to our chief meteorologist, Betty Davis, with our continuing weather coverage. Betty.
Amy, and we could see more of that standing water again as that chance for rain is just so huge for a lot of Florida. Already some 8 to 10 inches for parts of the west side of South Florida. So certainly we'll be keeping track of what's happening there. In the meantime, right out our own windows, we're looking at a rain-cooled atmosphere in Fort Lauderdale and also Miami. Fort Lauderdale reporting a temperature of 73 degrees. And just look at Hollywood Beach. Talk about wet weather. The puddles are everywhere. And by the way, there still is a flood advisory going for parts of eastern Broward too. We'll get to that in just a second. But I do want to show you this forecast model, and it is showing that along the east coast we're likely to see some dry time tonight, but then off to the west it's showing some showers out there. So there is more potential for rainfall in the forecast. Even if we get into a lull, eventually we know that more will make it to our side. In the meantime, let's talk about this flood advisory in effect for the east coast of Broward down toward northeast Miami-Dade, where just 30 minutes to an hour ago we had so much rainfall coming down. This flood advisory officially going until 9 o'clock tonight. We'll see if it gets lifted a little earlier, but no doubt about it, if you are heading out in some of these areas, you could find still some standing water here. Between Hollywood and Aventura, one little shower now moving through right now, and at the core of this we see the red, so it's delivering another quick hit of some very heavy rainfall. This should move off pretty quickly toward the east-northeast and get out of your hair. So the rain and storms we're finding are now more spotty in nature instead of a complete shield covering Broward as we saw for much of the day. But check out the west side of the peninsula, just more of that deep moisture, the rain and storms rolling in off the Gulf of Mexico. So this is what we have to watch and how it all evolves as it continues to track toward the east-northeast. It does put us in the zone for the potential for more rain and storms. So the rain chance tomorrow gets up to 70%, and then on Thursday 60%. So we're not quite ready to lose that tropical connection. Even as we're starting the weekend, we're at least going to have a 50% chance of rainfall out there. I'll be back in a few minutes with a lot more on this forecast.